Hi there, my name's Mike Jones and I'm a Senior Accessibility Analyst here at the Digital Accessibility Centre. I lost what remained of my sight when I was 18 years old, and I found this incredibly difficult. I'd gone from a limited amount of vision where I could still watch pictures on the television and read large print books to having no light perception at all. So I was unable to see anything, and this had a huge impact, more so than I could possibly have imagined. I had to relearn how to do simple things like make tea and coffee, how to go to the local shop. It was simple things like that which I'd taken for granted before, still with limited vision, into having to adapt to that completely, to do it without vision. And it did take several years for me to truly adapt, and I won't pretend that was easy at all. It really was difficult, both to think that I would adapt and to also cope with what I had lost, because it went beyond having to relearn to do things. It went to not being able to read those books anymore and finding ways to do that. It went to being able to play games which I'd previously done before. I wasn't able to do that anymore, and it was very difficult in that sense. So I was lucky that I was able to learn to do such things as use a screen reader on a computer. I was already a touch typist, which was lucky for me, so I was able to learn software such as JAWS to go through on websites, which I now do as a profession, to test applications, websites, mobile applications. So I would go through and check that I can actually use them. And it's not just a profession. Personally, I use these products as well. And sometimes when you can't get through something, it can be incredibly upsetting and frustrating. So I had a problem with an application last week where I needed to input data and I was unable to find the edit field, so I couldn't complete the process. I had to email the company and I got a very quick response, and I have now fixed that issue so I can use their application again as normal. But sadly, all too often there are lots of products which aren't accessible to me because I can't access a link, or a button doesn't work, or it's not the edit field or form element isn't labelled. Those are just a few examples. But it means that if I can't access that, I have to go and ask for help. My wife's a technophobe, so the reality is that if I can't access something, I'm probably not going to be able to access that whole area, which can be very frustrating and upsetting. Society is also very interesting in the way that they do take to me then. Some people are very scared of somebody that's blind, and it's not through any form of malice, it's simply through a lack of understanding. They're frightened to ask questions in case they offend me, so they would often tend to avoid, really, purely because they are frightened. I'd far rather, to be honest, have somebody ask me questions, because if people ask questions, then they understand, and it means they don't have to be frightened, and they can more easily work with me then. That's not to say that all of society are scared. A lot of people are comfortable with it. I've learnt over the years never to stereotype anybody, as people do react differently. I've had kind people that stop and help me cross the road, which is a godsend, because it means that I don't have to do it. Although I can do it, it really is helpful. And yet I've had other people be highly surprised that I have children. I have 2 children currently aged 6 and 3, and although a lot of people are comfortable with me having children, others are quite surprised and worried, which is a shame, really. And it is purely down to what people expect, really. Some people are very surprised that I do have a job. I'm currently in the office, so you can probably hear the background noises. And they're surprised that I'm married and have children. But then there are others that do accept that and understand that although I have to do things in a slightly adapted way, so for example, I would carry a white long cane around with me everywhere and use that. That would be the way I would adapt. So it purely comes down to a lack of awareness in many people. So what I would say to people watching this is, honestly, don't be scared. Always ask, because most people would far rather you ask. You will always, unfortunately, have one or two people that don't like to be asked, but you will probably feel a lot better by having that knowledge and understanding, and most people would be more than happy to answer any questions and help you to understand how you live, how somebody that is blind would live on a day-to-day basis. Because the reality is, you might think it's a silly question, but the probability is there are a lot more people out there that have the same question that would love the answer to it. Thank you for watching.